I know we're running late, so I'll try to run through this as quickly as possible. The main thing I want to show is how I make chip music, because that's the most frequent question I get. So I brought my gamepad and I've got the software that I normally run on PSP running on my computer. But before that, I'll give you some context. I'm Star Paws. I've been making chip music for a long time. That's the most important part of this slide. And here's what we'll cover in the next 15 minutes. Now, chip music is a term that people have to use loosely because it means different things to different people. But generally, it means creating music with vintage game consoles and retro computers, old things like you see here, Game Boys and Apples and Sega Genesises, all kinds of bits. But it also means making sounds similar to what those old computers made using new tools. And that's actually where the etymology of chip music came from. Now, if you say that chip music is Mario at a rave, you'll probably annoy some chip music producers. It's just something that happens all the time, and they're tired of hearing it, but I think it's pretty funny, and I love GIFs, so there's Mario. So, speaking of Mario, an old man, I've got some history for you. Way back in time, as Ray was talking about, there were sine waves, and Pythagoras came up with the idea of relating tones to each other. I'm just going to skip this history stuff because, I mean, it's just history. Amiga, Commodore. So actually this was an interesting thing. When the Amiga came back, it could play back samples. Previous to that, it was all synthesizer chips inside of the computers. And nobody was differentiating chip music from other kind of music because it was just the sounds the computers made. It was as good as it got. But when the Amiga came out, you could make better sounds. You could sample drums, sample guitars, have all these like richer sounds than what you could make with a basic computer. So some people who had Amigas and could make really rich songs were still making chippy sounding stuff, and they needed something to call that. And that's where the term chip music came from, is people that had the ability to make richer sounding stuff but were by choice making crappier sounding stuff. And here's some Google graphs about how people Google search for different terminologies. This is, you know, what the talk is about, 8-bit versus chip. Here's chiptune is a very popular search term, but 8-bit dwarfs chiptune. So 8-bit is more popular, even though none of the computers are really 8-bit. I mean, some of them are, but a Game Boy is 4-bit and Sega Genesis is 16, but everybody calls it 8-bit. Whatever. Micromusic was one of the first sites that popularized this style of music, and it was more just like low-tech music for high-tech people. And these guys were releasing records intentionally around this aesthetic. So as part of the history, I really have to shout out to these guys. And you can still go to micromusic.net to this day and download tons of free tunes. And yeah, that's great. Here in the Bay Area, 8-bit SF is what you'll want to look up to find any chiptune related events. These other events that are up there are previous things, but 8-bit SF is currently active. And now for the live tracking demo, which is the fun part. What I'm about to show you has a lot of hexadecimal. There will be numbers and letters, but they're really all numbers. Hexadecimal numbering works 0 to 16 rather than 0 to 10. So to do that and make it easy for humans to understand, it counts up 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then since there's not another number, we call it A is 11, B is 12, C is whatever. There's the chart. You can read. I always just remember that 8 is in the middle and F is at the top, and when you are just adjusting values, that's about all you need to like know, okay, I'm about in the middle, I can turn it up to a quarter or down from there. So to make chip music, you don't have to like memorize hex codes, but it gives you a little bit of a reference point if you do. This stuff is to remind me what I'm doing. We'll see if I need it. So this is little piggy tracker. It runs on just about anything because it's written in SDL. Right now I'm running it on my Mac, and I usually run it on my PSP or a Dingo or any number of handhelds that it's been ported to. This is because it'll run on anything. It's one of my most suggested chip music softwares because it's versatile and it runs anywhere. So if you want to go home and download this and try it out tonight, you can. So this is the song selection screen. Here's like a folder that has some tracks I played like when I went to Australia, but we're gonna start out with nothing, just like this A project, which is blank. And I could like tell you what buttons I'm hitting right now, but it would just make this really long and boring. Just know that by doing little quick key commands, kind of like Street Fighter moves, I'm able to manipulate what's going on in the tracker program. And it's actually a very fast way to compose. You can transcribe a Bach piece in an hour or so. So this song screen, if you've ever used Ableton Live, is a lot like the grid screen in Ableton. Just each one of these positions can hold one little loop. Left and right are the different sound channels, like Ray was talking about polyphony. Each one of these has can play back a single sound at a time. And then up and down is time. So this would like play loop number 1 over and over again. They're called chains. So I'll go inside of chain 1 and it's blank. So now I've got to put a little phrase in there. And this is where I actually start getting to put notes down. So inside of one of these song positions, there's a chain, and inside of the chain position, there's phrases. So it's very modular. Like if you do object-oriented programming, messing around this way will make a lot of sense because you can just like move things anywhere you want. So yeah, now I've got a kick drum, and I can just lay it down like that and hit play and get some more volume because everybody likes hearing 909 kicks louder. Yeah, and then I can go over here. Well, I'll make this like 4 long, and then on the last one, like shake it up a little bit. And then over here, yeah, I got a snare. Okay, good. Get that in there and go into live mode so that I can trigger this and it'll be in time when this guy finishes playing back. And then if I think that sounds off, I can just like shift it. Whatever. And then, yeah, voices, I don't know. We'll see what voices are now. That's pretty terrible. Could torture you like going through the process of like what I do when I make music, but what I'm experiencing right now is like, oh, this is bad, and then I would just keep on changing it, and I delete more than half of what I make. It's just crap, but the whole process is just like keep on making, tear it down, build some more stuff up around it, and then eventually wind up with something like what I would actually play. So I've got like all these different things that I've made. Oh, I deleted something. So this one is like pretty well laid out where I know where everything is. So I can just kind of like let it drop down. And if people are responding to something I'm playing, I can like let it loop or like keep one part going and bring a different part in and all that kind of stuff. Or if people aren't responding to something, I can like skip ahead through a track and get to the next point I want to be at. So yeah, that's basically how Little GP Tracker works. There are tutorials on the website that go into like more detail on how to actually do everything and what the key combinations are. But I just wanted to show what it looks like to track with the gamepad. Yep.